Welcome to SonarFeed. How'd I do?
Better than I did.
Yeah, that was actually pretty good.
Was it a month ago when I filled in and it was awful? Although better than Aaron's.
Wow, Lickett already said Fody out.
Wow.
Yeah, what are you now, fan of 4 years ago?
Yeah.
Fofi. Fofia.
Fan of long time ago.
Anyway, so we're giving Dave his own space for the moment until Ugo rolls in and is just going to shove him out of the way or something.
He is coming in very hot. He's
Yeah.
making the world a better place. So
Again.
Can I just say Jerry's comment, hello from the light rail?
That's
and
good.
I automatically thought of it in Adele lyrics. Hello. Hello from the light rail.
Can we
That
just
was
end the
really
show right now?
funny out.
Show is over. So anyway, welcome to SonarFeed episode 199.4, or as Brendan likes to call it, I think it's 202 or 3, something
Sure.
like that. Yeah.
Why not?
we
Anyway.
forgot how to count.
I went to WSU. I don't know how to count.
We're the Stargument, as Bred so appropriately named what is currently happening in Sounders Land and beyond, frankly. Anyway, we'll get to Stargument a little bit later because we could talk about that for probably 5 episodes straight through. Anyway, so some cool stuff going on. We're finally getting into the season almost. We've got Carolina
the Carolina Challenge
Cup this week is coming up.
Charleston Battery, Atlanta United, and some other team. Like literally, I forgot the
Another
other
team.
Wow.
It's probably Tampa Bay
Columbus.
or Columbus.
Yeah, that'd be
Is
the Midwestern
Columbus
team
going
I
to
thought was
actually burn down the Atlanta team? Because they threatened that like years ago.
It was
so
good. It was a good tweet.
It was quality bands.
That was
we talked
quality
about
bands.
last week. That was last week, right?
We did
When we had the
mention
lovely
it
Nate
last week.
Bowling.
Yeah.
So that was kind of an epic conversation.
Yeah.
Which this unfortunately will not be as good as the Nate Bowling episode.
You are less likely to learn about non-soccer stuff this week than you were last week.
For certain.
Fact.
For certain. So anyway, so that's happening. So we've got some other stuff that we can discuss. YachtCon happened yesterday, so we'll dip into that a little bit. Some player things seem to be on the horizon or not on the horizon for us, as it were. And otherwise, we'll just probably talk about random things.
Jerry already stirring the pot.
Yeah.
Hey,
Anyway.
by the way, across from me is my good friend.
Oh, yeah. Who are we?
I don't know who we are.
Who are you?
I'm Tom Biro, a.k.a. Bougie Hooli.
Who are you?
I'm Dave Clark at Better Than.
And I am Mark Nesteroff, a.k.a. fan of last
Corn dogs?
last year. SSFC Fody 13.
Both that side.
on
And
Twitter.com.
just off camera, we've got Adam,
Who's
hanging
trying
out.
out this cool little deal.
playing.
Yeah, it was great. He and all of Bootstrapper Studios did a wonderful job at YachtCon yesterday,
That was
and now
great.
Adam gets to play with new technologies and test them out and whatnot. So it's kind of fun being his experiment.
So we have a third camera that I think we'll probably share the link on social for sure, and then
the
we'll have it
Facebook-y?
a little bit later. Audio, but people can see, which is interesting. So we'll get that from Adam, and we'll share that with the group, and it's probably something we'll. Excellent, Mark. You want to take care of that?
That's what I'm working on.
Anyway, this is kind of a just-in-time production for this tonight, but it's a cool idea, something that we'll figure out if it makes sense at some point to add. But it lets us kind of shoot the whole table or the whole room. Some pretty cool camera technology that we'll maybe see again on SonarFeed. So
It's rather wild. It's one camera, but it winds up giving a producer director multiple options, particularly when there's many voices, as SonarFeed is apt to have.
yeah, letting you flip around, letting you change what's going on from a director perspective. It's pretty cool. So you could post that as SonarFeed. Anyway. So let's get into it. So in the last week, we've had some stuff. Let's go straight back to yesterday. Let's dig into YachtCon, which was pretty cool.
Oh, that's so funny.
That's you. on
I
camera.
know, but it's just how he does that. That's
Anyway, so
neat.
YachtCon yesterday, aside from, and we were all there, including Shemaine, who just rolled up here
Hi, Shemaine.
in the room. So we were all there. Obviously, pretty packed house. Seems like it went well, both for charity and otherwise.
Yeah, it was about $5,000 or so.
Yeah, the
final
initial
numbers
numbers.
are going to be trickling in. We know how that is, but about $5,000 raised for the Seattle Children's Autism Center, which is awesome.
Fantastic.
So that was great. They were stoked. They were so excited. The dude that gave the presentation about
He
that
was
was
stoked
very
about maybe
energetic.
everything.
It was
Yeah.
pretty awesome. There was a rain panel, which did a great job. Leslie Gallimore, coach of the UW, as well as analyst she does a lot of analysis for NWSL games. Haley Koppmeyer and Lindsay Elston were there. Haley is taking over as the number one keeper for the Reign, which is a huge role. I mean, that was Hope Solo for so long, but Haley, due to national team calls, and then Hope has gotten a lot of playing time. So she took over. Richard Farley, who's a great friend of Sounder at Heart, and
He did a fantastic
was
job.
a great host at that. We got an ascot tying thing.
That was pretty cool.
That was
A-
great.
a
Tim is
less-
fantastic.
Yeah.
So it was fun. It was fun to do anyway. But I think maybe for me the best part about that is like he's totally serious.
Yes.
It's not just like somebody who happens to know how to tie an ascot. It's like he's trying to truly explain
And
it to
he
you.
made fun of himself about it too, which was great. Where he was like, "Yeah, so there was this presentation about autism, and now I'm going to teach you how to tie an ascot." So that was great.
Dramatic pause.
Yeah. My highlight, because I was the escort VIPs in, was Christian Roldan had parked his SUV. I'm like, thanking him and everything. And by the way, at any moment, we're going to be playing the interview that you already recorded. And so he walks in while his interview is being recorded, which had just barely started to cheers, and so people missed, like,
Which was funny.
it was funny.
It was a good interview. And
He did
funny.
a great job with
Yeah.
it. The pizza scene
The
was
pizza
good.
was great.
And then Stephen Fry on like no notice walks in and goes, "I just want to donate like my preseason gloves. They're the gloves that I've worn so far at Sounders Camp. Can I
so
do that?
awesome.
Can we raise a little bit more money?" And it helped. I mean, it was great. So all the teams were involved. Sounder Heart did a great job. Our buddy Hugo got in a good question and a reminder that the SonarFeed FIFA tournament's coming up soon.
Very soon. Weekend of the 1st. So we'll lock in
April.
He announced April 1st, so now we're locked in.
I think we sort of announced April 1st, but yes. Yeah. There's an outside chance that it'll be Sunday, but the goal
Thanks,
at the
Pub
moment is Saturday, April 1st. It's really just going to be a matter of making sure we can get players and other people that wanted to participate there. So there's a game Friday night versus Atlanta United. And then typically they're off the next day and sometimes the Sunday as well. So we just need to work around that. So we'll know soon, but hold that weekend.
What else was awesome? Stephen Fry was awesome.
Stefan was great.
I was really proud of myself for getting to ask Stefan Fry Beth's question, because she wasn't going to get up and ask it, about how exciting it was to go on vacation with Zach Scott.
Yes.
Because he had taken the Zach Scott bobblehead to
Oh,
St.
yeah.
Martin and had groomed his facial hair and so on. And he did point out as well that he needed it to not look like Hercules Gomez. I believe he mentioned that, which was pretty funny. But no, for me, it was just great to see them all being good sports about serious questions and not so serious questions, and just talk about cool things. And Steph talking about citizenship, and they know it's on the internet at the end of the day. And as much as like sometimes we're all doing things that right now there's 20-something people watching this. I don't know how many people were watching the stream yesterday, but 5 days from now, somebody can go pick up a transcript or happen to go back and restream it because they know something happened. And then all of a sudden they're like, wow, did you see that one time that Christian Roldan said XYZ? Like that happens in like the rest of the world, like things we experience all the time. And for me, it'll be interesting to see if like the political discussion that we heard from the players, or even just like some of the jokes that like they made.
Spoiler alert: Dave Clark will be talking about Stephen Fry and his adopting the Seattle community, because the way he talked about the Pride Parade, the MLS Cup Parade, his thoughts that went into citizenship and how he is civically minded and community minded. So I'm going to be talking about that to some extent.
Which is awesome.
And then when you talk about his being very careful about the words he used, he and I learned exactly what those words can lead to, blowing out your mentions. Because he threw that shade at
at Portland.
Portland.
Yeah.
And the Timbers
Had
account.
you tweeted? You were sitting next to me when you were tweeting that.
I go, did I hear that right? And you're
Yeah.
like, yes, you did.
Yeah.
Tweet. And he said, I hate their coach, I hate their front office, and I hate their field.
The field part was maybe the best part of the whole comment. And the best is like the look on his face. I'm like, holy shit, he's dead serious right now.
And the Timbers did a quality quote tweet of it about his goals against last season, where he gave up 7 goals in 2 games.
Yeah.
Which, good banter. Very proud of Nos Audios host and occasional Sounder Art contributor who brought up Derby Carrillo and his 120-minute shutout. He clearly loves the Geldwin Glass House Providence Park field because, well, he's better than any of Portland's keepers have ever been there. But I cannot log into the Sounder Heart Twitter account now without having, here are the last 100+ messages to catch up on.
Yeah.
And you've dealt with that with the ECS account on a few occasions.
I've done that. I've had a few moments of interestingness, so to speak. So anyway, I mean, again, we talk about this a lot, but I mean, even last week with Nate Bowling, it's just a really cool thing to have that level of access with the front office, with players, with folks from the Reign, like just whomever in the Seattle soccer community. And I know, something, Dave, you and I have talked about a number of times is like Sounder Heart isn't just all about Sounders all the time. Like, deal with it, people. And it's not just about it's the off season and it's an off topic Friday, story. It's like, this is the cool thing that Jess Fishlock is doing in town. Because, by the way, guys, Jess Fishlock plays in Seattle. Like, if you know anything about world soccer, that's pretty cool. So
they had the 2 of the 5 best players that weren't at either the World Cup or the Olympics on the women's level played in Seattle for the past several years, and Jess Fishlock and Kim Little. We still have Fish, who just won a title in Australia as the head coach and player.
Right.
We lost him. Yeah, they fired their coach, and then she took over.
Well, and who had mentioned it? Was it Leslie had mentioned it, that she's kind of like player coach?
She's an assistant coach already.
Yeah.
And she helps out at the academy level because the Reign are part of the USSDA Development Academy women's side. So she helps out at that level too. Like, that's her future, and she has a great future in it. Like, she is essentially the Osvaldo Alonso of women's soccer that will also be a champion. Well, I mean, she's a head coach, and she won a trophy already.
Yeah.
A major trophy.
Yeah.
Australia, the U.S. are really good professional leagues at that. Like, you're talking Japan, Sweden, Germany, France, England, China, Australia, U.S. That's basically it for leagues where women can be pros. And she already head coached a title.
Right.
Me? Am I?
No. We're on his deal.
Oh, okay. Good.
But I think beyond that, and actually just kind of random funny story. I think it was 2013. It was before they had changed the look on the Reign unis and some of the crest stuff a bit, and they had a table at a Sounders match. I'd say around like 117, 118 at CenturyLink, and the table is like Fishlock and like heavy hitters sitting at this table. just like, at the ECS merch table behind the section. And I walk up and I'm like, I know who all of these people are, and they're just trying to sell scarves for the rain. Like, that's pretty cool. And like, that's the only rain scarf I have, and that's the only one that I probably will buy. Not that I don't want to give them money, but like, it's a cool thing. Like, I've had it for a while, and it's like that first thing like my 09 Sounders jersey. Like, it's a cool thing to have. And I just think that, yet again, I think by them showing up yesterday and being a big part of that kind of event shows just like how much cool access we have to players of any level.
Yeah, I mean,
Hey, look, it's you.
it's just a great event. Like, seeing them, they got ecstatic about the MLS Cup. Like, they got to hang out with the MLS Cup, and they loved that.
Their photos were pretty funny. And then they had to go to an event or something afterwards, right?
So, a different charity event.
Yeah.
They did 2 charity events in one day.
Oh, okay. That neither of them they got paid for.
I've worked in and around the NBA and Major League Baseball and the NFL, and to see players do 2 charity events in one day is like a month's work.
Well, I was going to say, let alone like weeks worth.
Yeah. That was great, and they chatted with like Garth and Chris Henderson, and Roll Down and Fry rolled up while they were rolling out, so they didn't really get to chat with them, but they did chat with Garth Lagerwey and Chris Henderson, which is, it's so cool to see, that these soccer teams, which are not tied together in any sort of formal way, definitely have a positive relationship.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun.
Anything else jump out at you from YachtCon? I mean, aside from the volume of people that were there, like that was pretty cool.
250 or so. We blew out Queen Anne Bear Hall. I am continually humbled because, that Nos Audios is basically like a spin-off brand from Sounder at Heart. Like, I launched a website that in 2008, the first month it was active, had 31 page views, and I think I was 17 of them. And now, we crack the 1 million mark regularly and have hundreds of people showing up for our live events. Like, Queen Anne Bear Hall also hosted our MLS Cup viewing party. Mm-hmm. That was standing room only.
That Palm beer, by the way, that Belgian beer was fantastic.
Palm is a Belgian ale. So it didn't have the yeasty flavors that the wild yeast Belgians that you're used to would have, but it still carried the fruit notes that Belgian wild yeast has.
It was a decent amount of cloudiness, too.
Yeah, I liked it. A little red, not amber, but more towards the red for the color.
I feel like we're about to go into that SNL version of like NPR talk radio. When they're like, oh, yeah.
Oh, so Garth is like, across from me was Will Parchman, Top Door Soccer, MLS Soccer, SoundersFC.com writer. His wife was across from me after I sat Garth down. And she's like, hey, what beer is that? That looks great. And I'm like, it's the Palm. And I get into flavor notes and whatnot, and Garth goes, we're getting a beer lesson here. And I go, yeah, Garth, I don't think you were here then, but I used to be a professional coffee taster. He goes, oh, this is wheelhouse then. I'm like, yeah. I've got a few things that I do really well. So that was kind of fun, just like talking about the Palm and
just different stuff.
Like,
because again, same kind of thing. Like, you're getting to talk about life stuff with people who like you don't necessarily get to shoot the shit with on a regular basis.
And the Sounders do a great job of that. Like, they show up for the SonarFeed FIFA tournament. We had 11, I think it was 10 first teamers, 2 academy players, like 3 S2 guys last year. And they just hung out.
Yeah.
And
like, you think they're going to ring and run, and then they like hang out for 3 hours, and you're like,
Liam the Nurse, at Liam the Nurse on Twitter, his kid at one point played this little like mini foosball thing, like homemade with Christian Roldan. And Christian, he and that kid were at YachtCon talking about that moment. And
That's
Christian,
so fun.
Yeah, I remember doing that. That was great.
So isn't it his other kid that was actually in the MLS Cup?
No. That was writer
Jeff.
at Sounder at Heart.
Jeff, right?
Yeah, who put his baby inside the MLS Cup.
Which maybe was the most distracting moment of the entire day. Like,
if you were in the back and saw a baby
I was in the middle of the room at that point, and I was talking to some folks at a table. We actually discussing stars, which we'll get to in a minute. And you actually heard the buzz begin towards the back of the room, which was pretty interesting. Lickett also pointed out the pretzels were giant, accurate. Shout out to the pretzel that I had that was,
Dude,
I
they
think,
make
maybe
Berliner
dipped in
pretzels
butter.
look small.
Yeah.
And the Berliner pretzel, thanks to Berliner Pub hosting our show
Hard to
tonight.
see. Sorry, I'm trying to make it work. There you go.
They give big
Maybe
pretzels
in an
here,
MLS
but
cup.
the pretzels at Queen Anne Beer Hall
good.
were disgustingly large.
It was good.
Um,
All in all, I mean, not to cut it off.
Yeah, we
if other
got
folks have
other
stuff to talk
topics.
about, but I thought great turnout. Everybody seemed to have a really good time. At the end, I was like, wow, is everybody going to just stay here and keep drinking? Because I could totally sit here and keep drinking this palm beer.
Yes.
Well, that worked out. Well, good. Hopefully some servers made some money on a Sunday.
They were very happy. I stayed very late.
Good.
As I'm prone to.
Yeah.
One, to recover. Two, to eat food because
Because you had beer.
as you guys are familiar, Dave doesn't eat food at events that he's a part of, as his dinner sits next to him here.
You're welcome to corn dogs if you want one. Yeah.
Should have done that. They're easier
Yeah.
to get a bite or two of. And they were so stoked at the end.
Good.
One, we didn't break anything this time. And
Bonus.
Two, the cleanup was easy, and they got tipped well, and so they loved it.
Good.
Yeah, so it was great. Again, the next time to hang out with soccer players in the greater Seattle area for awesome charity goods will be the SonarFeed FIFA Tournament 2017 to benefit the Lamar Nagel Foundation and another charity
Another
that we're
one
still
which
trying
people
to
we're,
finalize.
We're pretty sure that's going to happen, but needless to say, Bread will probably be happy about it.
Yeah, there's going to be some fun stuff with that. We'll have
Oh.
there. There are
Wow.
he said off the air the Cat for Cover Foundation.
Which
is a little shot to
doesn't he
Brett.
have no cat now
No
because
cat.
he moved out of living with Tyler?
Yeah, there's only one cat. It's Tyler Miller's cat.
Oh, we're gonna have to work on that.
And somebody stalked Tyler. Aaron Campos found like 5 photos of
Whoever
Tyler.
That
is
cat is
drunk
majestic.
call in the chat is jealous that we have beer and they don't. Sorry.
So here's Gio.
So
and
come
then-
to that. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll raise money.
Yep.
We're gonna hang out here, play a bunch of video games, tell stories. Gonna auction off the ability to run Sounder at Heart for a day.
I'm excited to see how many other players put Chad Marshall up top
Just
in
Aaron.
FIFA.
Just Kovar.
You think? I don't know. That sounds like a fun strategy now.
I
Maybe
might
it should
do
be mandatory.
I might do it just because
You
I'm
have
not gonna.
to.
I'm not
In fact,
gonna win,
maybe
so I
it's
might
like
as
in
well
the
have more
early
fun.
levels of the tournament, you have to play with Chad Marshall up top.
Take the final 4 from the past several years and be like, in the first 2 rounds, you have to do this weirdness.
I think that's a good idea. Change the game up a little bit.
I also kind of think that we should just insist on MLS teams only rather than let.
People are going to play the video game teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't really need to see like Madrid Barca again.
yeah. But I
Ever.
love
like
seeing.
in real life, I could not watch that again. Not all the time. Later, when we saw them playing, like over here, and it was the players, they're playing as Sounders.
Yeah. But, if somebody wants to lose with the Portland Timbers, they should be allowed to lose with the Portland Timbers.
Totally.
Isn't that
That would
kinda
keep it
guaranteed?
authentic.
Mark plays as Forrest, usually. Anyway,
What's FIFA?
just stop talking. So, wow, Alec, the tournament should be played on the Nintendo Switch. If you'd like to find that many Switches that actually had FIFA, we can have that conversation. But as of right now, I don't think that's going to happen.
We know a guy.
Anyway, I even called him Alec.
Why?
I don't know. So,
You know he hates not being called Alex.
so do we want to talk about the fun and exciting topic of the day?
Are we going to go rage or are we going to talk soccer for a little bit first?
Let's talk about soccer.
'Cause
So, what were we going to say?
they are only here for they're only going to have 3 practices in Seattle.
Yep.
Sunday they were at CenturyLink. They were there at Starfire today. They're at Starfire tomorrow,
Yep.
and then they're off to the Carolina Challenge Cup. which is an annual preseason tournament that the
Are
Charleston
you out at
Battery
practice tomorrow?
do. I was at practice today. I will be focusing on my wife tomorrow. We're both unemployed, and so we're going to treat Valentine's Day as a day about each other, as opposed to just Valentine's Eve, like employed couples do. And we're getting a lot of work done on our house that we paid for before I was let go.
But anyway,
So, sorry, sidetrack. So, yeah, we got to hang out at practice today. We had a couple stories up at Sound at Heart, but one of the good things that we're seeing is they've kind of pared down a lot now. We're down to a couple academy players that are going to be hanging out with the team, even on the Charleston swing. That's going to at least be Sam Rogers, who's a defensive mid center back hybrid type guy who has soft feet. He's like 6'4". He's committed to Villanova, but things could always change. He's with the U18s. The other guy that we're seeing is Jake Morris. He's a left back, center back guy. That's Jake with the good hair, or number 55. And he's the other Morris. No relation.
Number
He grew up in
55.
Florida.
Going from right to left on your radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
J.A. Morris.
At a minimum, J.A. Morris, not Joe Morris.
Can you ask, not to totally derail your flow, because
Yeah.
I actually want you to
I have
continue
no
this.
flow.
Do you think that they'll go as like Morris and like J.A. Morris? Were they on the field at the same time? Or will one of them just like come up with some cool Brazilian one name thing?
We need to get help. I hope,
Because I think that would be
I
super
would
cool.
hope that Jake Morris just turns his trialist top into just like good hair.
So it's
As
like,
like
he
his
hate
Brazilian
me.
name.
He hate me?
Yeah. Go for like the XFL nickname and just go with good hair. When Beth listens to this tomorrow, love
She's
it.
already told me that the hashtag I used earlier was too long. It was about Mark doing the intro. But anyway, so I'm sorry.
So yeah, there's a couple Academy kids, but besides that, they're really pared down. There's not a lot of trialists or anything left right now. You're gonna, you might see them again at a thing like an S2 camp when that opens. But for the most part, the 25 plus guys that you're going to see on an MLS roster are the guys you're going to see out there for the Carolina Challenge Cup over this weekend.
You can talk about that.
That's my former boss just got fired.
So this
resigned.
just came across on Twitter. Breaking
40,
news.
47, 48, 49
49
seconds ago.
U.S. National Security Advisor Michael Flynn has resigned, sources tell CNN.
If I've done my math correctly, Michael Flynn was at Fort Huachuca as like
What state is that in?
that's in Arizona. It's in southeast Arizona. It's where the military intelligence and communications
Like
schools are.
Tucson-ish?
South of Tucson,
Okay.
closer to Nogales. It's closer to
Okay.
Mexico than Tucson.
That's where a lot of our produce comes through.
And I was there, and I think he was running the intel school at Fort Huachuca when I was there.
Wow. Okay.
So he basically trained me in intelligence and then violated everything that he had trained me to do. So I'm really happy with this firing.
wow.
During the election campaign, you would see me basically late night Twitter was Dave screaming at General Michael Flynn for violating everything that we were taught about military intelligence.
Good times.
So I'm very
anyways,
happy
that's
with that. Sorry.
a good derail, but interesting,
We do that
topical. We
sometimes.
do try and be topical as much as possible. So anyway, you were on a good roll, Dave, talking about kids and such.
Yeah, so basically, we're not going to see a big signing in this transfer window. Now, we're not going to see a big signing in this transfer window, but you've got the following players that are competing for an attacking or a starting spot in the midfield or forwards. It's a long list, so hang in there. Will Bruin, who scored 50 goals in MLS history.
Yep.
Harry Shipp, who was pretty darn good with Chicago and mediocre with his 1 year. Alvaro Fernandez, who went to a World Cup, once scored 11 goals in a single season for the Sounders. Gustav Svensson, who is a Swedish national team player, younger than Eric Freeberg with more Swedish national team calls than Eric Freeberg. Aaron Kovar, who before he broke his clavicle started 10 straight games as a forward. and Brad Evans, who you may know as like Gold Cup national team player, all around Swiss Army knife, great guy. One of those guys is going to start in the attacking band, and Brad and O'Neal Fisher are competing to start at right back. Those are basically your starting roles. That fourth attacking player is going to be really interesting because there's a lot of different strategic or tactical options that Schmetzer will take. We're going to see those work through probably at the Carolina Challenge Cup over the weekend. And then the deep roster is pretty much set as well. Gale Abbasumande.
You can do it.
Abbasumande. Gale Abbase.
I just want to hear who say that in the stadium.
Abbasumande was not there today, so he may not be in the feature picture. But Tony Alfaro is clearly the third pure center back, and then when you have a Brad Evans and a Gustav Svensson, both of them can slip back there as well. So they've got plenty of depth there at center back right now. And it's fun. It was fun to see them out there again. It's really narrow now. You don't have the fringe players where you're like, I don't know how he'll do in MLS. You've got the guys. You've got the roster. And then you've got some academy kids and some S2 players. Zach Mathers, by the way. Remember when Eric Freeberg played in that central midfield as in the attacking band a few times?
Yeah.
Zach is playing in the attacking band very similar to that, where he adds a lot of defense up top and a little bit of ball control and passing. So he'd be a deep bench option, but he might make that roster, which will be fun.
That's what he's there for, right? I mean,
they would prefer that he was a better defender and could be depth at that defensive mid spot, but now they only need a fourth defensive mid because Svensson is clearly the third.
So, I mean, do you think that that's part of the reason that we no longer have another Jordan playing at S2 is just the shuffling and what they knew the plans were going to be?
You're talking about Schweitzer?
Yes.
My understanding is that decision had more to do with... My understanding is he could have been back as a sounder, but he didn't see an MLS future here. And so he's going to get a little bit more money out in Orlando and is more likely to be in their MLS plans.
Right. More direct path.
Yeah. It's a simpler path that doesn't require multiple injuries to wrap. I mean, when you have a Christian Roldan and an Ozzy Alonso, that's, as Alvaro Fernandez called them today when I asked him about it, he called them the best defensive midfielders in the game for MLS.
Wow.
He said perhaps, but that might have been added by the translator. It's hard for me. I'll have Hugo listen to it when he gets here later. But Alvaro was a defensive midfielder in Argentina. Now, a defensive midfielder in Argentina doesn't
means
behave
something
the same
slightly
way
different.
That an MLS
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't go in to break people's lives, like damage their soul. And Alonso and Roldan are willing to damage your soul when you try to get past them.
I mean, it's really hard to not be biased in this conversation, but when you look at lists and things you hear from around the league, I find really mixed inclusion of Alonso and Roldan. And it does genuinely surprise me. Now, I would say, in a 2-year span, you're going to see the bulk of the stalwart players in the league. And to see somebody like Alonso have a season like this last one and Roldan to really, really step up. And then when you hear people talk about him, whether it's other coaches or Bruce Arena or whoever we're talking about, and then for him to not... It's not that they're the best duo ever or anything, but the fact that they're not included in things sometimes really, really surprises me.
It's funny. If you go to Sounders FC's YouTube page, Schmetz got asked about Christian.
Yeah.
He's like, I like talking about him. Thank you. The excitement on his face to talk about this kid who, again, the Sounders wanted him a year previous, but MLS said,
right,
we're not getting... we can't assign him to a GA contract yet.
Well, I mean, there
They
was
want
a
him after
reason
his
that we were
freshman
all
year.
like bunkers when they made that move.
And then
we were like, you just stole him
Yeah.
from people.
And kind of like Ozzie Alonso did, where he developed this passing tree, to borrow from NFL style football, where you have these different passes that you can do. And Ozzie's first year, he didn't have them, and now he's like this long ball expert. Christian is developing that same thing. His entry into the attacking game is better than Alonso's ever was. Like, if Roldan takes a shot from 30 yards, I'm like, oh, that could be a goal. If Alonso does it, I'm like, well, it's that time of month where Alonso thinks that he can hit a long shot.
Right.
Because he tries 6 or 7 of them a year, and every other year he scores. So it's really exciting to see. I mean, there's some great defensive mids in this league. Ozzie might be the third best in this league's history, though.
And that's where I find it surprising. Yeah. And I'm like...
And he's only made best 11 once, where those other two, Shalry Joseph made it 4 times, Chris Armas made it 5 times. Alonso probably got robbed, but the league doesn't force a defensive mid vote, and so a midfielder that doesn't score goals or get assists isn't going to get that kind of recognition.
Right.
It's a failure of the league. Honestly, they should have a left back, a right back, and a D mid be required votes.
Well, but it's like anything else. It's like when we've seen the best fantasy players of the season, and you're like, you have 4 wingers or something. Like, it just...
I've got Roldan on my fantasy team, by the way. I'm really high on him this year. He was already about 25th in that kind of role that he plays, and I'm high on his ability to improve this year. So that's one of my sleeper fantasy picks. Dave Clark, by the way, never does well in fantasy because after 2 months he forgets to update his roster.
Same.
And which is better than 2 years ago, because 2 years ago I would have Mike Facito on my squad and start him even though he wasn't playing. So I'm really excited for the Carolina Challenge Cup. We'll see the first game on the 18th against Charleston, the Battery, where they have one of the best lower division stadiums in the league, and they get to go where Top Chef was hosted and experience Charleston. So I'm kind of jealous of that.
Charleston's actually a pretty cool town.
Yeah.
So
I've done me some Savannah, some Augusta, and whatnot, but haven't done the small town in South Carolina yet.
Greenville's pretty cool.
Thanks, Dave.
No, Asheville in North Carolina, loved me some Asheville. Asheville was such a great visit. But there's tourism, Dave. Maybe that'll be my off-topic.
Tourism, Dave?
Places to go in the South that don't suck.
Eileen wants to know what time the match is on the 18th, and I'm going to say Google is your
4
friend.
or 4:30 because it's on the East Coast and it's only one game. It's the opener of the tournament. It has the big money Seattle Sounders, and it has the local team. So that's going to be the one that's packed. But again, verify that at charlestonbattery.com or google.com. We'll have more details up later this week at Sound at Heart, Thursday or Friday.
Is anybody out there?
We do not have a traveler for this one.
Okay.
I would love to travel.
What the
but
hell,
sorry,
Mike
guys.
Standish?
We had 2 travelers actually. One of our copy editors who you guys never see, Charles Caldwell. He joined over the off season.
Wait, there's an editor?
He's a copy editor in the background. He traveled down there. Mike Standish did a little recap talking about Satan's Taint. Got verbally abused by Tucson fans who didn't like that he objected to the open carry law of Arizona.
Which was great. I complimented Mike on it because I thought it was a great write-up.
I think
for those that know Mike,
it was a travel log more than it was a soccer story,
right?
Too and people traveling from the Seattle area to another town. When you see an open carry, it can be shocking. And considering it from a travelogue perspective, I did not scrub his commentary out. Well, plus I love Mike Standish.
So say we all. Wow. That wasn't where I was going to go.
Adam is not on the microphone, but he said points to groin when I said Mike Standish. Follow either of them on Twitter to know what that means. Or watch the YachtCon intro for one of 2 Easter eggs that are in there.
When I saw him yesterday at YachtCon, I just locked eyes with him, and then I pointed to my groin.
You should
good
put
play.
actual Easter eggs in intros in the future.
It's not Easter yet, Tom.
What was the second Easter egg that you found?
You're going to hit me, aren't you?
Adam Weigel off mic again asked about the second Easter egg that I referenced, which you probably noticed if you watched to the very end, but it was when Aaron Campo flew away as a superhero, saying something like, "Excuse me, I must fly home." He might take the mic to quote.
So do you guys know what that was from?
Not a clue.
It was from the Poochie episode of The Simpsons.
Oh, yeah.
So Aaron would not play along in that clip when we were trying to get him to jump.
What was... I couldn't really hear the audio. What was it when Aaron's mouth was going...
Yeah, he basically said, thank you, or he said, excuse me, I must go back to my home planet
Oh, and
now.
then
And then he, which was right from Poochie. Yeah.
Got it. As opposed to the end of the Matrix Rage Against the Machine playing Fly Away thing. Okay.
I just watched that
Got
the
it.
other night.
The Simpsons.
I might have to rewatch The Matrix. I'll put that up. I might just do
Matrix
off
1
topics
is
all year.
pretty good. It's where I learned the phrase wet wall. To the point where I like to use it on purpose when you're talking to people who are plumbers. And they're like, oh yeah, that's a thing.
By the way, did you see the Black Mirror episode where like the people go after they die?
No.
Netflix does a Black Mirror, which is basically a kind of Twilight Zone set in the future, and they did one where like you get to try out what it'll be like if after you die you decide to put your mental consciousness into this place. You get to sample it for 5 hours a week. Yeah, so you should see this episode because Black Mirror is creepy as fuck, and I didn't sleep well last night because I watched the bees episode where mechanical bees kill you.
When you first said this, I thought you said black beer. So I was like, what are you talking about?
No.
Black Mirror.
Are we gonna talk about Black
You mean the
Sails?
show that's like actual reality right now? Because we made the bees? Mm-hmm. Yes, Black Mirror. Where they
Mirror.
pull the, what do they call it?
ADI.
No. What do they call it when they pull that out of your head in the Black Mirror episode and they put it in the little thing?
Oh,
There's a word for it. Yes, John Hamm. Yeah. Where they pull that out of your head.
anybody watching should watch Black Mirror, except for season 1, episode 1. Do not watch it. It is gross.
Like
Binge
gory,
the whole
gross?
fucking thing.
No. Start with
Do it.
episode 2.
No, binge the whole thing.
No.
And then you will never leave the house ever again.
So basically, treat it like Star Wars.
Wow.
Yeah, kind of. You don't do Phantom Menace.
You're not going to
Don't
watch the
episode
machete version?
2. Episode 1 is about pig fucking.
Pretty close to reality. Yet again.
You beat
Yeah,
me to
so-
it.
There are better social media commentaries in Black Mirror than episode 1.
Anyway,
cool. We
so-
got distracted again.
But the good part about this was somebody tweeted something about some weird Trump thing that had happened and was like, I wonder if Black Mirror thinks this is weird. And then like the Black Mirror like producer or something tweeted about it and was like, we got nothing. And I was like, that's fantastic. Because that's reality. So we got distracted for a minute there, Dave.
So we talked about the Carolina Challenge Cup because I wanted to do soccer.
Let's
and then
talk
we got
about some
distracted.
players. So
Hit me.
our rivals to the both sides,
Shemaine actually hit me.
our rivals to the south, brought in Sebastian Blanco,
Yeah, they got our seconds.
who is good and has played with Valeri. May or may not be playing the same position as Valeri, so we're not quite sure about that yet. Obviously, pretty dangerous player, at least we think.
Their band of 3 could be Sebastian Blanco, Diego Valeri, and Darlington Nagby.
Yeah.
That's really good. Now, they're still going to give up 50 or so goals.
Well, did it even
'cause
have a
they're-
keeper?
No, Jake Gleason's fine.
I was going to make a joke about
I knew where you were going.
Stephen
keeper,
Fry, yeah.
but we're
Now,
gonna.
their keeper's fine. The fact is they don't have center backs.
Whoa, Jerry.
Fact is they don't have center backs.
Whoa, Jerry.
Oh,
Like, they have Liam Ridgewell, who
he's also probably drinking a good beer right now because he does seem to have good taste in beer.
yeah, that wasn't a DUI reference.
It wasn't.
He got off of that, by
Not
the
yet.
way.
Did he really?
Yeah, it turns out just showing up to rescue your friend who crashed his car isn't justification in a legal sense to give somebody a sobriety test.
I could see that.
That's why that was their
But then again,
justification.
I could still see probable cause if you.
Yeah.
What?
So
what do I know?
yeah.
So, needless to say, Timbers
the Timbers' offense
have
will be
reloaded.
incredible.
right?
Like, they're right now.
That's funny, Chris.
They look kind of like the 2015 Sounders, except the Sounders actually had good defense but played at a high pace. They have a bad defense but will probably outscore people, but they're going to wind up with like 55-4 and 50 against. But it'll be a lot of fun. Like Fernando Adi, Diego Valeri, Sebastian Blanco, Darlington Nagbe, Chara, and Guzman. Good front six. Good front six. Shitty back five. But
What do you-
good front six.
What do you think, though, about Adi not really apparently wanting to not be here?
I'm surprised they didn't sell him. Because they could
Twice,
make money.
right? Like, at this point?
I understood why they didn't sell him in the middle of last
Yeah.
year because they were
Yeah.
they were nearly a playoff team, but they weren't because, well, they had to make history. One of 3 MLS Cup winners to not make the playoffs the next year. But they probably should have sold him in the offseason. They could have gotten great money for him. He would have gotten a step up into Liga MX.
Yeah.
They would have made good money. But a lot of Caleb Porter's boring-ass attacking soccer is play it wide and dump it into Adi's head. And that's what they've become over the past 2 years. It won them a championship, and then they were shitty last year. So he might be dependent upon Adi now because let's remember, in his first year, he wasn't good either.
Right.
Caleb Porter's had 2 bad years, 1 good year. Kind of like he did with Akron. 1 good year made him a household name.
So that's our friends to the south. Our friends to the north, maybe more, I don't say importantly, but interestingly, appear to be making steps to bring in fan favorite is maybe an understatement. Freddie Montero.
Yeah.
Which we know that they've been looking for a striker to the point where like the team has made jokes about it recently, beyond Carl Robinson. So I'm not terribly shocked.
Freddie doesn't really fit their mold, though.
Yeah, so that's the question. Like, are they doing it just to have a striker? Really?
We know what Freddie Montero as the lone forward does, and that's bad. Freddie Montero in a band of 3 or as a withdrawn forward in 4-4-2 variants, really good. Freddie Montero as the lone forward, really bad. That lost him the starting role when he was at Sporting Lisbon, because Ibrahim Slimani was a better lone forward. So Slimani started, and then Freddie came on for one of the midfielders. So,
But don't you think they probably mix some of what they got up because you have Mane and you have Hurtado, frankly, players that have punished a lot of other teams.
They got
But
a lot of
can't
guys
you
that can
see them
run off
tweaking
of a-
that? Right. But can't you see changing what you do? Or, I mean, do you just think they're so baked in
So
right
look
now
at
they're
their-
not going to change
their
their
3 best
lineup?
forwards are Freddie Montero, Eric Hurtado, and Katuta Mane. None of them play as a hold-up man. The non-Monteros are very fast. Montero is great from distance, getting space underneath. Like, you either have to... If Hurtado and Mane decide to play kind of like Mike Facito did in 2011, where they're running so frequently up top that the defense is scared of them, that can give Montero space. And they're fast enough to do it. But Katuta Mane isn't going to make the U.S. national team by being a fast guy opening up space for Freddie Montero. And Eric Hurtado isn't going to make his next contract, and he had a pretty good first contract by doing the same thing. They want to be goal scorers. And so are they going to deal with helping the DP that's behind them, and I don't know that they are.
Well,
That's going to require a lot of maturity that those two haven't displayed yet.
I mean, the thing that stands out to me whenever Sounders have played them in the last couple of seasons is their pace on the field at their mids and their forwards has been pretty scary. It's just, I think, been their ability to like connect and not have to score on a counter or a mistake every single time.
Right.
So
Sorry, distracted by Weigel.
I was just pointing out, like, I think some of
It's
their mids
easy.
and some of their forwards have been fast for the last few years, and it hasn't necessarily translated into victory for them. It has, in some cases, translated into goals. It is definitely translated into goals when mistakes are made. That one ugly Stefan Fry ball aside, versus other teams, like on the counter or on mistakes, they have done all right because of some of the team speed they've pushed, or at least their mids and above team speed. So, like, do the Whitecaps come into this season? I mean, same way that, does Portland come into the season saying, okay, we got different players, we've mixed this up a little bit, do we do something completely different?
One of them probably makes the playoffs this year, but I'm currently thinking Portland is the more likely team to do so. For all my
To make the playoffs.
for all the fun I make of Caleb Porter, he's proven he's a better coach than Carl Robinson has, and I think they have more talent. Vancouver's young and fun, and they'll always be young and fun, but it's interesting. They're actually built around a great defense, but I don't know that they know how to put it all together. Like Parker and Waston and Usted, their keeper. That trio, solid gold.
Waston, by the way, is on my team, on my like
Fantasy
in my
team?
head team of players that I really dislike, but if they were on my team, I'd be super cool with it. Which, as a hockey fan, like, you always have players like that. For the longest time. So I love the New York Rangers. Ulf Samuelsson was this guy on the Penguins, and I think he was on Hartford, and was just this punishing guy. And you were like, I hate him. He's the worst. He's the guy you like screamed at, like Will Johnson level screaming, and then he's on your team, and you're like, that's super cool that we have that guy. But Waston, man, that guy is devastating.
Dude, his ability to win a header is unrivaled. Like, and we'd get into that dumping crosses in constantly against Vancouver, and I'd start crying because you can't win headers against. I mean, it's the same thing that the idiots do against the Sounders. You're not going to win headers against Chad Marshall and Ruan Torres. So you're not going to win headers against Chad Marshall and Brad Evans.
So let's talk about that for a second. Not to say that, like, Zach Scott held the team back from doing certain things, but he has been the fill-in at center back for so long. And I would say the last couple seasons, I mean, we've all had our moments where you're like, wow, what happened there? Do you think a full season of Torres and having an Alfaro as an option and potentially national team level Chad Marshall and whatever else we end up pulling in here, do you think the Sounders defense is even more? It's not that it wasn't like part of the core, or part of the push to winning, but do you think it becomes even more valuable than it has been because of healthy players and some youth?
Well, like, your third center back is probably Brad Evans now,
Oh,
who got U.S. national team call-ups when he was your second center back, and he was probably your starting right back. And we talked about Gustav Svensson earlier, and as the backup for Alonso and Roldan. I used the phrase at the end of last year as the Pentagon. You have the two defensive midfielders, the two center backs, and Stefan Fry. And when that's your defense, and then you get people like Nico and Jordan up top forcing shitty passes to go forward into the Pentagon, like, you're going to be fine. The defense is going to be absolutely fine. It's going to be a top 5 defense, which honestly the Sounders have had great defenses for the most part. Even the year they gave up so many goals and won the Supporters' Shield, if you looked at that as a based on their tempo of play, they were one of the best defenses in the game. They just played at such a pace that others couldn't penetrate. Like, yeah, you could score a lot of goals, but you were going to get outscored because of the pace.
Right.
It's kind of like what the Golden State Warriors
But now
do in
you're
the
looking
NBA.
at like a more confident Jordan Morris, a full season of
Nico and Dempsey together.
Nico,
Ooh.
Clint Dempsey probably, like,
Clint still won't play defense,
but
he
just like that's potentially punishing. And I think your point on like I can just think about Nico running around being everywhere on offense or defense. Like that's just exhausting for oppositions. So this is one of those times where you're like, wow, okay, so as much as there has been change, this core group is still here. It's going to even look different.
9 of 11 guys that started an MLS Cup final are back.
Which is crazy.
And again, we talked about Will Bruin, Harry Shipp, Gustav Svensson, brought in to replace those veteran leaders. Gustav's 1 year younger than Eric Freeberg was. Will Bruin's like a decade younger than Nelson Valdez was, and has had success in MLS. Like, Will Bruin, an MLS fan would think of as old because he's been in the league 6 years, but he's only 27.
Right.
Harry Shipp we think of as old because he's going into his 4th season. He's 25.
I was going to say 25, right? Yeah.
I asked Harry about that early in the offseason because I was like, you're now the seasoned veteran, but you're like young. He goes, I don't want to think of myself as old yet. I'm like, yeah, but this is your 3rd team, your 4th season in the league. Like, these kids straight out of college are going to look to you for guidance more than they are
Right.
a Clint Dempsey. They're not going to look to the 8-year veteran, or they're not going to look to Chad Marshall and Brad Evans unless you're Aaron Kovar. Most young players don't look to the 10-year.
They're probably making hairline jokes, though, at Harry Shipp. Yeah.
Well, there is that.
Yeah.
Young but looks 35.
He looks like he's been around slightly longer, which is fine.
Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting, situation. The defense, I'm
Mark's
very,
just texting
very
over here.
confident. Well, we got bad news. Hugo blew a tire.
Ooh.
Oh, is that why my watch
Hopefully
is
Ugo
blowing
is
up?
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not good.
So we may not get last second Hugo today.
Well, shout out to Ugo.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's okay
We
on the
miss
road
you,
right
Hugo.
now.
We miss you, Aaron.
They'll
Please
be back
wear
at some
pants.
point, probably next week.
Aaron.
I wore shorts and flip-flops today because it was in my apartment this afternoon. It was 75.
We had the sunroof open.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. I was like, what day is it?
I even washed the car for you.
You did. Thanks.
Actually, I did it more for Jake, but
So we talked about Freddie Montero. We talked about Sebastian Blanco, 2 former Sounders DPs that their Cascadia Cup rivals needed to get in order to maybe kind of possibly compete with our better team. We talked about practice in the Carolina Challenge
Practice?
Cup. Talked about YachtCon and SonarFeed FIFA tournament.
Can we talk about Leicester City? And,
About to go down?
Totally random. Leicester City's like a point out of relegation right now, a year after winning the EPL. They don't really look like they're working their way out of that, close to potentially getting relegated. I don't expect anybody to probably make that Jamie Vardy contract go anywhere, but they've got a couple of other players that I could see.
Mahrez, Algerian,
I would
people
love
wanted to buy him from Leicester City last year.
Would love to have
They
him.
refused to sell. They
Well,
probably should have sold.
But
in this
I mean, don't
winter
you think
window.
they've got to like?
They got Freddie Montero's
They've got to
former
give
teammate,
somebody.
the other Algerian.
They can't pay
Ibrahim
everybody
Samini.
going down to championship.
Well,
They're-
they can because they're going
Well-
to get like $60 million
playing CL
to
too.
go down.
They're going to play. They're going to play Champions League and
They're going to make Champions League money while they're in the championship.
But they're not going to keep everybody were they to get relegated, would they? You're not getting anything, Mark.
I guess not.
Anyway, they jumped out, and as I was watching some games over the weekend, it was just interesting to hear some of the announcers talking about.
Arlo's very sad.
I bet he has had literally the best of times and the worst of times in real life.
Have a napkin.
I don't need a napkin. I can't drink that.
Yeah. I so wish we had Pro Rel so I could spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on a team that gets sent down. That would make me so much happier.
I mean, I do just so I could tweet less at people who are complete jerks.
Pro Rel?
Which leads me to the topic du jour. Wow, what are you eating? Wow. Anyway, so the name of this episode is Stargument, coined by Bread earlier today. Got my star right here. You probably can't see it.
Oh no, I don't have that with me.
Anyway, so the short story long, because it will be long, is we do not expect to see, based on all reports we have, even though we haven't seen it, there to be any stars on women's jerseys or youth jerseys.
Or men's replicas.
Only men's
No.
or men's replicas, right. Only the authentic jerseys this year. Let's not even get into the political correctness or whatever. Having seen the new jersey that's coming, knowing people who know what it looks like, including a number of whom are female and have said, I'm going to buy this and I don't buy merch, now I'm not buying it. It's not a good look, and I think the feedback we've all gotten is it's a league decision to not put it on other things. And I guess my struggle with that is like you're still pretty nascent as a league goes. Like you're 20 years in and change, okay? You're kind of making it up still as you go along. Like this last year, they finally came up with the okay, your first year it's going to be this size, and then the next year it's going to be this other size. And as you get this many, this is what's going to happen. And then Galaxy are like, we've got 5, so we're going to make our star big for the 5, and then have little ones for the next
get a
ones.
big gold star, but it doesn't have the year of win
Right.
in it.
And
the
so
Sounders
on.
Gold Star on the Authentics will have a small
This year,
16 in
Right.
it. Next year, it will just have a silver star.
right. So, they're clearly just making it up. At some level, this is a merch decision. Some of the arguments or discussions I've gotten into about it are well, by other companies doing it, you're taking money out of their hands or whatever. I go, yeah, but those people aren't going to go. They've already said, I'm not buying a men's authentic because it doesn't fit me. I'm going to buy this other jersey. I want to do X. And today we had heard that one of the local shops has already had the league come in and say, it was a comment, I think, on Sounder and Hart.
Cease and desist.
That said, we'll pull your license to sell these jerseys if you are editing them and adding stars. And then you get into copyright
By the way,
claims and
the
all
league
sorts
is
of other
very
things at this point.
fine with you putting nice and the 69 sex number on the back of your jersey from that place, but they won't allow you to add a star.
So what you're saying is they're not the NFL.
They'll allow quite a bit of language and not give a cease and desist to those companies,
So
but they won't allow.
So for
a
them, it
star.
is about money, and it's we want to sell authentic jerseys, which are, what's a non-authentic going for? $50, and authentics are 70, 80, 90.
No, you're talking both
Yeah,
are
so-
much more. You're talking a $40 difference
Okay.
probably.
So $100, call it, right? And you're talking 50, 60 for a replica in a lot of cases, depending on the size, or 60. Okay. And I haven't looked at the new prices, so it's not that I'm uneducated on
And
this.
one
I
of
just
the
haven't looked at the pricing, but
The Authentics also only have a limited number of sizes of it. They have an Authentic has a more limited size selection than the replica, the women.
right.
They do small, medium, large, 1 and 2 XL. Replica go only to 3 XL, I think. for both men and women, and then the available. So you're literally telling like 2/3 of your audience you're not allowed to have a star on your uniform.
Yeah, I think my struggle with the whole thing is, did you break the show?
No, it just all of a sudden said we were offline, but now it's fine.
My struggle with the whole thing is, that's fine if it hasn't happened before and maybe all the other teams haven't had stars on their replicas before. However, we reached a point last year with Portland, which we saw them attempt to do something with, okay? And again this year with one of the more outspoken fan bases in the league, both online and off. There is demand for this. It's not the end of the world. This is not like full design change. It's not like the structure of the jersey doesn't work anymore when you put a star on the women's jersey. It is structurally different. Like knowing how to pull a seam and, change clothing, like it is physically built different. It doesn't change the jersey to put a star on it. So they're choosing to not do it. And yet somehow the LA Galaxy have stars on the women's jerseys.
Yeah, when the league says, well, no women's jerseys have it, which is what the league said, and people are like, well, what about the Galaxy for the past 2 years? It's frustrating, and none of the league or the team's justifications for it make any sort of sense. I know the team's official commentary about it is that it's the league and Adidas, and we're doing the best we can.
Right.
But if the best you can is to be a second-class citizen of the LA Galaxy, welcome to the Siggy Schmidt era Sounders.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and to be
We're
honest,
used to that. Be better.
To be honest, the
equal
Galaxy
to them.
having it invalidates the argument completely. Because if you want to tell me, like, we can't print them at the factory that way or whatever, so either they're printing them at the factory that way for the Galaxy, or the Galaxy are taking on the cost of secondary market doing this before they ever ship the product out. But that doesn't appear to be the case, because when you look at the Galaxy jerseys elsewhere, they have stars on them. So it's about as double standard as you can get, really. And aside from the fact that, like, a lot of us got in way too many arguments yesterday with people who coincidentally are the most, like, pro-rel, weird Euro snob people ever, who also are like, what did the women do to deserve a jersey? And then when you're like, the same thing as I did, not play.
I would ignore the bro-rel people. They're not... One, they're not fans of your team. Two, they're not fans of the league. Three, they're actually not fans of the sport of soccer because they don't go to local soccer games. I can sit on my ass and not watch soccer and call myself a fan too, but I don't, because I actually go to soccer games and watch on television. They don't do that. Ignore Bro-Rel.
Yeah, I mean, they're the least of my concerns.
With MLS.
Right.
And that's the...
But they seem
the
non-responsive. I haven't. I don't know. Jerry, have you called? Give one day up from calling your senators and call the league.
And, the Alliance Council's tried to work on it as well. They used to, in the past, the women's jersey was a deep V.
Yep.
Now it's merely a V. Still nothing like a men's jersey. I'm married. My wife won't get a deep V. So we went from, the fit said boobs argument to now we're stars for all. They've made minor improvements, but they need to make more. They need to be better. And this isn't a league that can afford to turn its back on fans because of a stupid thing like, well, women don't play the game. You're selling it to me and Tom Biro. We don't play the fucking game either.
But, like, on a given day, there's 40,000 people in the stands most of the season for Sounders at home. Okay.
That's okay, right?
To see if the other camera figured it out that was a face yet. Anyway. And we're going to need to go look at what Taylor Graham has just apparently tweeted about this a few minutes ago. But
is he listening?
I don't know. But
Let's lie and say he is.
Taylor, if you're out there, listen up. I totally lost my train of thought, which is super awesome. We're going to go look that up right now. If we had a producer on the show, they would look that up for us. Anyway.
Oh, I turned your mic off. Sorry.
Did you really? Again?
So yeah, the stars thing is starting to get to a huge issue, and one of the other things that's problematic is, as one of our loyal readers, loyal listeners pointed out, is the club doesn't think social media should ever influence their decision. You know,
Right.
And
Taylor said the more stars, the merrier. Let's just, for a second, and it's funny because I said this on Saturday before going to YachtCon. I was like, this year going to YachtCon, when the team says, trust me, I'm actually just going to do it, as opposed to last time when we were all like, okay, great. Anyway, let's give, I don't want to say give the Sounders the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not going to throw this at the Sounders as it's their fault. However, the conversations I had yesterday in the house at YachtCon were, how do we get the Sounders to, as a voice that's louder than many other FOs in the entire league, and one that, except for, 3 clubs right now, sells far more tickets than anybody else? Like, at some level, they've got to know what they're, the league must talk about. The year after you win a championship, you sell X jerseys. They must know what that number is. The Sounders number is probably bigger than all the other numbers. So what does that look like? And they have big problems, but at some level, this is a straight revenue discussion. I want the team to make money. I don't want them to take my money that they don't need.
This is bad social justice, and it's bad business.
The bad business part to me is like,
how do you ignore both of those?
I don't see how you can.
There are people who can ignore one of those, and I'm like, I understand why you would ignore bad business to be good social justice. I understand why you can ignore social justice because it's bad for business.
Right.
I don't understand why you ignore both.
Well, and
you're losing money, and you're being a piece of shit to the women who are the fans
and
of
that's
your
the
league.
thing here. So, there are people who would buy the new jersey that are literally not going to buy it now because it's not going to have a star on it.
Thank you. I probably shouldn't have said that, but
people have said it publicly already. People on Twitter are, it's like commenters. It's a proxy for the whole group. We all kind of know about when things are like, oh yeah, okay. That's to a point where 30% of the online commenters are talking about it. That's going to show up in the stadium on game day. We're kind of reaching a point where it's not just hardcore people.
It's good for your money.
Yeah.
Sounder Heart, we offered a women's cut because of Fit Said Boobs, and it costs a little bit more because it's a business decision.
It's a smart decision.
But we made it available for those people that wanted it. And I see no reason why you would ignore. And MLS, of the major sports outside of the NFL, because the NFL is weird, more women watch, the percentage of the audience is more feminine than the NBA or Major League Baseball or the NHL. And particularly young women, Gen X and younger, are a larger portion of the MLS. Why?
It feels like a cut off your nose situation. This isn't well, they're only buying a $50 product instead of a $90 product or $120 product in this case. It's $80 to $120 or whatever the heck that is. Well, they're only buying the $80 product, so this, and bluntly, I know what an embroidered star costs, and I know what the amount of time that actually, I know Emily and others have actually looked into this, and I have a sewing machine that will literally do this in 1 second.
Well,
it's one move.
It's not even embroidered; it's an applique.
But you can actually.
But on the replica star, it
in a
wouldn't
second.
be embroidered. On the authentic, it would be embroidered. Let's be honest. You don't do the jock tags and all that fancy stuff on the replica.
And that's fine.
If you do a smack-on little applique thing for the star on the replica on the women's, I could understand. And it's a replica on the. It's the same applique on the men's and the same applique on the kids. And yeah, you say with the star it's $5 more. Guess what you just did? You sold more stuff.
And what
you made more
I mean,
money.
the cost of that is
For non-embroidered,
nowhere near $5.
Like 28 cents.
Okay. So even like with the labor involved in that, okay, and even if
I
it's
included
post
that. They're from
Adidas,
Indonesia, China.
well, that's a whole nother discussion. But even if you're beyond Adidas doing it and you're doing it local, or you're having third parties do it, and you're just saying, like, to me,
By the way,
Sounders
Adidas offers stars on their Bundesliga champions women's kits.
Yep.
So it's not a policy from Adidas. It's not a
it's
policy in the
MLS
sports.
with
You
Adidas.
can get a men's authentic U.S. women's national team kit with the 3 stars on it. You can get a men's,
which is a Nike product. Yeah.
right, but
But it's
It's not an
the
industry standard.
men's
It's not-
of the women's team.
Yeah.
Men's cut.
it's not a U.S. soccer thing. It's not an industry thing. It's not an Adidas thing. And frankly, with the LA Galaxy having a star on their replicas, it's not an MLS thing. Why is this a thing for the Sounders? Why was this a thing for Portland?
So
Your two team, like
So that's a good example. So Portland made 2015 of them. They just tried to pick the year and ran with it. And they were like, get down to the store and do it. And I don't know if that was them just trying to undercut what the league was doing, or they just did it just to try and solve the problem and move on.
Yeah, they've
But
done
they
that
did
before,
it. Like
yeah.
Portland did it. Like the club. No reason the Sounders can't address
I'm
this.
fully capable that I'm confident that they are fully capable, that they have the people who know how to do it, and I hope that they do it. There's no reason to not do it.
And I just think,
Even if it's only just 2016
Yeah.
as a limited edition,
It
you
just-
better do it.
to me, like, let's even get beyond, you talked about how it's bad on two fronts. At the end of the day, they're in the business to make money. And, let's look at this, and Brett, who coined the term we're using for the title of the episode tonight, but brought this question up yesterday at YachtCon. And while, PR Tom says, well, Garth's not the best person to answer this question, it probably went on a little longer than it should, unfortunately. Like, they just weren't the right people in the room to answer that for her. However, she made her point. And for me, I look at that and say, that's not just, a 16, very much almost 17-year-old woman going, I'm being influenced by the marketplace and her friends and her sister and other people. That's her going, no, I want a fucking star in my jersey, and I'm a person that you want. Like, the Sounders want teens and under 25s, like same as ECS or any other organization does. Like, that's a group you need to have in anything you're doing in quote-unquote pop culture or music or sports or whatever. Like, you need that audience no matter what.
If you can get a high school junior to fall in love with your product, they're in love with your product forever.
And then you literally have to not fuck it up. And this is
Gonna
fucking
fuck
it up.
Yeah. And hopefully she listens to this and I don't get hurt. But one of the questions that she asked in these small settings afterwards, she asked about colleges that she could go to literally take Garth Lagerwey's job in 25 years.
Right?
Did she say those words to him?
That's how she asked me about it. I don't know if she said it to him, but she's like, she wants to be a GM in MLS at some point.
Already fell.
Which is amazing.
That's-
like great for her. And whether she,
And that's what you
I've
want.
been
Like,
17
you're a
before.
marketer.
Like, yeah. You want somebody
that
who,
person.
like, even if she gets a job that's 10% marketing and 90% something else, but she has that, like, tweak that she knows how to look at a situation and say, oh, I know how to talk about this. Like, that's what's important. And she's already, like, I mean, we've all talked to her. This isn't like the bread conversation necessarily, but we've all talked
She's
to
been
her.
on the show.
She's a little further ahead than I remember being at her particular age. Like, I was like, man,
me
what
now.
time is street hockey, and where?
She's not tweeting about the Grammys. She's tweeting about Stars for All.
How am I going to
Like-
sneak into this rated R movie?
She's an influencer. Like, to borrow a marketing phrase,
She
Brett,
is.
Beth Mandel,
Yeah.
she's an influencer. Like,
Right.
Hell,
but like in Sounders land, not just for teenagers.
Well, for both. Like, at
My
the victory celebration.
my name's Brad. I make 2 poles. Like she said that on television.
Yeah, at the victory celebration, after the parade, Kent Carson was like, "Who are you? My name's Brad. What do you do for a living? I make 2 poles."
Oh. And he literally was probably like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
you want somebody like that dedicated for life.
Right.
And we all were there at a various
Right.
sports or entertainment thing. The decisions that the Sounders make now will influence their future. And not 2 years down the road, but 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And everything they look at, because they are... We're weird in Soundersville because they are essentially in their 2nd generation or 3rd generation, however you define it. But at the same point, they're still a 1st generation team. Like when you compare it to, if the Sonics came back, they'd be a 2nd generation and they'd have this legacy where people grew up with going to games with their grandfather. We don't have that strong of a Sounders influence yet. We don't have the Seahawks. We don't have the 12s flying everywhere. We don't have the Mariners where we're listening to Dave Niehaus for 35 years. You need every single bit of influence, and you need it to be positive because we need to have these memories. This 2016, 2017, the first title at the highest level, that's stories that you tell your kids, that's stories that you tell your grandkids. And if the story you tell is, they wouldn't let me have a star because I was a woman, what's that going to look like when I have grandkids?
And it just, and that's the thing, like it just seems so silly. It's not like they didn't make, like saying they're not making authentic jerseys at that quality product. And then you're talking about supply chain and other things. It's a longer conversation. It's not one I want to have. It's one I could justify one way or the other. This is like such a little...
We're talking the replicas.
...silly detail. It doesn't make any sense to me. So...
And this is a team, too, that on a business sense, I know that their 3rd jerseys in most years outsell 2/3 of the league.
Which is nuts.
2/3 of the league primaries can't sell what this team's 3rds sell. And their firsts always sell better than the 3rds. Their seconds sometimes have trailed the 3rds. But that won't happen in 2017. No.
They could bring back
This is a
Super
revenue
Saiyan.
stream. This is they're turning down money. They're turning down money to have a bad publicity.
Well, and I think that's the challenge here, that the league has put the teams in a bind. And this is where, unfortunately, we do need to get the Sounders to step up and do something. So, people had mentioned it on the feed. What are you guys giggling about over there?
I'll tell you off.
Okay. Oh, okay. Anyway, the next steps here. I mean, do you have a recommendation?
It's pretty simple. It's to say, we're going to have a star on... You're able to buy a star on any replica jersey that you want. Go to the team shop, the pro shop. They're in Renton, Pacific Place. I think there's one in Everett now. There are 4 of them that the team runs, and we're going to let them put the star on. They're going to buy that stupid applicator. Good thing. They're going to buy the stupid applicator for, not the embroidered version. The embroidered version is only available on the Authentic. Stick with that and say, we're going to have the stupid iron-on version, which is the difference between, the patches that are on the two. We're going to have a star available because, damn it, we're fucking champions. I swore again. Glad nobody's listening tonight.
So do you think this happens? Do you think the team does this on its own, or do you think it takes...
The team better figure it out by February 23rd. They've done that guerrilla marketing thing, and then they finally launched the website for it. The second kit is launching on the 23rd, and part of that marketing push should be, we're going to have stars on all of our replicas. And we don't care if you're a man, woman, or child,
Because realistically, like,
That's-
that's an
that's the
easy
d-
fix for
I
them,
mean,
right? Like, unless
Again,
the
I'm gonna
league
borrow
says, fuck you, you're not doing
marketing
this.
professional. If you put that in the add-on material
Completely changes the
to
discussion.
the kit launch, where you're like, and if you
X.
don't want that kit, you get like that's where you announce. You don't announce it as a separate thing. It gives it maximum. We're doing this for every man, woman, and child that's a fan of ours. Whether you're a triple XL or a 1-year-old, you're a champion in our minds. Whether you're a woman or a man, we don't care. You're going to get the same stars that we wear because you, as Brian Schmetzer will say quite often, the club is a relationship between the fans and the players and the team. And that relationship currently is damaged.
And this is one of those times, though, where, like, in a league where you're, single entity, where the clubs are essentially, like, paying the league to market a brand for the teams, this is a good states' rights issue, to borrow a political phrase. But this is a point where I think, kind of like the Galaxy probably did. And I don't remember seeing this uproar, but I don't follow enough Galaxy people, like on Twitter or wherever, to know. Maybe they just did it.
The Galaxy tend to do stuff and then ask permission to do it.
But, like, that's the thing here. Like,
And the Sounders tend to do what the league tells them to.
which
The Sounders
we don't need to. They don't.
whether it's at the Adrian Garth level with player signings, they tend to ask permission rather than do it, whereas the Galaxy are the ones that push for rules changes more frequently. I mean, the Sounders did get the third. The Sounders are why there are 3 designated
They
players
should
on
just
the team.
go in and be like,
but
we want 6 DPs next season.
They've been, like, organizationally, the Sounders are good, loyal soldiers,
Sure.
which has value, but
But there's a
you're
moment
costing
where you
yourself
just need...
money and
Right.
and
But there's a
prestige
moment right
right
now,
now.
you win a championship, like, I don't know,
Flex.
you've reset the bar, move the needle, right?
I mean, they're trying to do it with attendance. I mean, the opening game is a full stadium match. Flex that muscle. You got 45,000 a game. Use it. You got 100,000 people watching at home.
So we've got
Use
till the
it.
23rd, so that's next
10 days or so. to
Tuesday,
figure it out.
Wednesday?
Thursday. Friday the 25th, Thursday.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So they
okay.
have 10 days to figure it out.
And they'll be in Carolina for some portion of that.
But the players don't need to concern themselves. The coach doesn't
No,
need to
they don't.
concern themselves.
They don't.
Adrian, Taylor, Bart, Kyle. Those are those should be the driving forces on.
I mean,
this.
I can share that we had a conversation with Tim yesterday at YachtCon about, is there like a Nordstrom thing we could do where people could come in and like use their tailors, who are amazing, to do X. Obviously, we're talking about heat transfer, not, something that needs to be stitched for all of them. However, like, ECS members have already pushed and sent messages to various people in the front office and said, we're willing to go to bat for this. This is what the conversation is in the marketplace. Because at some level, I think they know, like here, I don't necessarily know what their, like, tune-in level is to it right now.
I just realized they don't need to add the equipment because they have the applique thing for getting the names
Right.
and numbers when you. Because you can go to the team
It's
store.
literally the same.
And it's a 24-hour turnaround because of. I mean, that's a business thing. But if you had a 24-hour turnaround to get a star, Shemaine, if you had to wait 24 hours to get a star on your replica women's jersey, would that be okay? Shemaine says yes. She doesn't
One
wanna
for
come
one.
on mic. I've pulled all the people that matter, and Shemaine says yes.
I'm just going to say right here, Mark is actually watching Max Aquino swing dance
With my good buddy from college, Chris Walters.
in a driveway next to me, and it's really distracting. Anyway, hi, Max.
He's not playing Pokemon today.
Although I would put my star on mine.
I mean,
So stars for all.
yeah, as a stars for all. It's wow. I really hope they don't listen to this,
Oh yeah.
or they do and make two great decisions.
Hire Dave Clark. Anyway, so we got a couple minutes left, and then we should bounce. Carolina Challenge Cup coming up this week. Anything else we're expecting? We talked a little bit about you expecting someone in this window a few weeks ago. That was pre-Dempsey,
There's
really.
one trialist in camp right now that we haven't identified yet. Garth Lagerwey, once upon a time, talked about an 18-year-old African center back. This is not him. This is a guy who looks more midfield fullback type. We have no idea who he is. He may be at the Carolina Challenge Cup. He's not an academy player. But the guys you've seen on the rosters and depth charts that are out there now are going to be who you see until July.
Okay.
But it's still pretty good. I mean, we added a designated player named Clint Dempsey to a roster that won the MLS Cup.
He's pretty good.
I might try to oversell Alvaro Fernandez once in a while because I love the way that he plays the game.
I saw your Twitter videos today.
Yeah, I did some fun stuff with that. You got him a whole season. You got Nico Ladero a whole season. You got Roman Torres, sorry. I'm bad with accents. For a whole season. They added Ship, Bruin, Svensson. Yeah, we lost Valdez and even Schitz and Freeberg. I personally think we're in a slight talent upgrade, but
Yeah.
we're in a huge youth upgrade. Now, youth doesn't mean you're better, but what it does is it extends your trophy window. And I want to borrow from Aaron Campo that he says quite a bit, but they won the championship in the rebuild year.
The Bruin Ship thing feels a lot bigger now, having watched some video and like seen first practice. Like, I think people really down on Ship just because where he ended up in Montreal, and obviously playing for just a trash team in Chicago prior to that. Like, as standout as he was, I think you're also kind of like, yeah, but how good is this player? Was he just that much better than a trashy team in Chicago?
Good player on bad team. Now he's got Clint Dempsey and
Right.
Nico Ladero next.
And then you have Bruin, who you're like, oh yeah, that guy was super annoying to have to play against. I remember that now.
Let's put it this way. Let's say Alvaro wins the starting gig. Your bench is Will Bruin, Harry Ship, Aaron Kovar, Gustav Svensson, O'Neal Fisher, Tony Alfaro, and Brian Meredith.
I think we should be super okay with that.
That's the best bench this organization's had. And I'm talking 2011,
Like, total,
2015,
right?
2016.
Yeah.
The 3 years where you're like, oh, they're great.
And on that note, you just answered my next question, which was, do you think it's Meredith?
I think Tyler Miller's a better keeper, but as often as possible, I expect them to get minutes for him with S2. Whereas last year, Charlie Lyon and Miller kind of split the S2 time.
Right.
This year, I think you'll see Miller will probably win the starting for Open Cup gigs. And he may be on the bench for MLS home games when it fits the S2 schedule. But he's going to get 25 S2 starts.
Okay.
You have to remember, if the U.S. national team had made it to the Olympics, Tyler Miller was probably going to be on that roster.
Right.
So is Jordan Morris. But then we didn't make the Olympics.
Those guys were okay. Ish.
I'm like, this goalkeeping core is probably stronger than the Spurning Hanneman.
Well, you got 3 right now that, not that I'd be happy if Fry didn't play a match, but you'd kind of be like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was more confident in Hanneman than I will be in Miller or Meredith, but the potential for either of these guys to have great years is there. Yeah, I'm really satisfied. Right now, the only spot that I'm worried about is like the fourth fullback. And if you're a team that's worried about your fourth fullback or
I'm not worried about
fourth
that.
forward, Like the Vic Mansoret going to Cincinnati.
He's
At
going to probably
best,
score
he was the
27
third or
goals.
fourth forward on this team.
Yeah.
If you're worried about your fourth fullback and your third or fourth forward, your roster's awesome.
Cool. So we're a little bit after 9.
What song are you singing tonight?
Who knows?
Peaches, then?
I mean, probably, but I've been trying to mix it up a little bit. Any parting thoughts, Mark?
I got nothing.
I got
Put a fucking
Coug.
star on it.
That's a good one. That'll
If you
do.
win a cup,
Yeah.
put a star on it. Kind of like that. If you want to, like, there was a song that you could adapt to that.
If you want to destroy my sweater.
No, that's Weezer. The ring on it, but then you put a star on it.
Oh, then you put
Let's
should have
see,
put a ring on it.
Since I have the opportunity to plug this to all 28 people listening, we're going to have stars on the Sounder Heart gear. We did the Together shirt, had a star on it. We did a reissue of the This Is Our Sound shirt, had a star on it. And we've got an emoji history shirt that
I saw
we haven't
that.
even written up yet. I did a kind of soft pedal last weekend, and it will have a star on it, like dead frickin' center right at the top, and then it'll have a shield and 4 open cups. And then it'll have a bunch of USL
Yeah.
shields and
Even-
trophies.
Have stars. Zach Scott testimonial.
Oh, dude, yes!
March 1st.
Cam Weaver, Roger Levesque, Marcus Hanneman, Casey Keller, Zach Scott. That's a list of people you'll
I
see
think
there.
Taylor Graham's playing. He is now.
Taylor damn well better be playing. And
I heard that the Hendy was playing.
I wouldn't be surprised at that, although he might have a. I hope not, because his wife isn't. He's expecting another child
Yeah,
soon,
yeah.
and that may interfere because he has a lot of kids.
It's shaping up to some cool stuff right now. So anyway, grab your
Taylor,
tickets.
if you're listening, text Mike so I don't keep getting texts from Mike and get him to the damn game.
Wow. Anyway, I don't even know what to say to that. So buy your tickets.
Mike Casino wants to play.
MrSounder.com.
Steve Zakuani will probably play now that he's not trying to be on the roster.
Pretty sure Steve Zakuani will end up on the field.
And if Steve's going to play, he might drag some of his buddies around too.
So it's going to be a good time. Tickets start at $10.20. Be there. Anything else you want to talk about?
To be there, you go to MrSounder.com.
I just said that.
It's not hard to remember.
I think you can even go to like MrSoundersFC.com or something too.
You got a couple extra domain names on that. Yeah.
That's Joe Towner did that. Give us the hookup. Anyway, so that's all I think I've got for tonight. So thank you everybody for watching, and have a fine evening. We'll be back next week with more excitement, maybe more cameras.
Maybe less Dave.
Wow. Thanks, Mark.